What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of 4-6 Garage. Thanks for tuning in. On today's episode, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We got Toyota 4runner front leveling kit. This is our new plate, and this is going to be sitting right on top of our original strut. So first things first, you want to remove your three 14mm nuts on top of the strut. Pretty easy. You can get a ratcheting wrench on there, a ratchet, socket, whatever you want. You can see I've already loosened one up here. Then you can kind of move down to the lower shock bolt, which is going to be a 19mm. You're going to remove that guy. Anyways, once we got the sway bar mount removed, we've got the nuts off the top of our strut removed. We've got our nut removed off the lower shock mounting bolt. Our next step is going to be removing these two 19mm bolts. Okay, once you remove those guys, we are simply going to loosen our control arm bolts here, our cam bolts, one over here and one over here. And you're going to want to back those up quite a bit. You don't want to remove the nut, but the reason for that is we're going to swing this control arm down in order to separate our strut from the top of the framework. This way we'll be able to install our leveling pad block. So we got this side going back together, as you guys can see. We got our spacer plate in there, bolted up, easy peasy, everybody's happy. Going back together. Just giving you a sneak peek of this side, and now we're going to tear apart the other side and show you how easy this job really is. Bolt, guys, I suggest you use a ratcheting wrench. It's probably the easiest to get at this one. It's a little bit hard to get a ratchet and socket up in there. And if you spray a little bit of penetrating oil on it the night before, a couple hours before, it should come off pretty easy. Alrighty, so these two bolts here, 19mm, you guys want to remove these now. Dusty slap-o-matic here. Uno. And Doso. So you guys are going to need an alignment after doing this procedure. We're going to go ahead and loosen both cam bolts on the lower control arm at the frame mounting point. So there's one here and one rearward. Now you don't want to remove the nut all the way, but you do want to loosen this thing quite a bit so you can swing that control arm easily. So now that you got the control arm, lower bolts loosened up, your cam bolts, you should have enough tension release off the shock to push your lower shock bolt through. So, as you can see, everything's nice and loose. Bolt is out, shock is moving. So now what we're going to want to do is break our shock free from the upper framework of the vehicle. It's going to be seized in here a little bit. We're going to get a pry bar, give it a couple taps. This should drop down. So I found this a pretty good spot to pry down on the control arm. This way you can swing the control arm down, get your shock out of the way. Gives you tons of room here. We're going to get our spacer block ready, show you how we put it on there, secure it, and start putting our shock back up. Here's our spacer, just like that. So basically now we can get our nuts, secure this spacer down, and then we're going to throw our shock back up. Going to take our pry bar, swing our control arm down, get our shock in the lower pocket, line up the top, make sure our bolt holes are going to be lined up with the new spacer plate. Sometimes you have to rotate the shock 180 degrees. I'll show you guys that in a sec. Okay, so as you can see, we're going to have to rotate it 180 degrees, and right there, shock's so check it out, guys. Got the block in, tightened up on the top, got our lower shock bolt back in, we got the nut back on, everything kind of hand tight. Haven't tightened it up yet. Put the floor jack under the lower control arm. We got our bolts loose so it still moves nice and easy. And now don't forget to put a little bit of Loctite on these lower ball joint holder bolts. Floor jack makes it nice and easy. Get your bolts started. So, time to hook up our sway bar, put the skid plate back up, put the wheels on. Let's get this sucker on the ground. Okay guys, wheels are back on. One tip I want to give you guys: when you're torquing your lower control arm cam bolt, make sure the weight of the vehicle is on the ground so you don't twist and destroy the bushing in the future. Plus, you're going to be needing to send this thing for an alignment anyways, unless you marked your cam bolts, then you can get it relatively close, but you need to go for an alignment anyways. Make sure your lower shock bolts are tight. Make sure your lower ball joint holder bolts are tight. Sway bar bolts are tight. Sway bar brackets are tight. And let's put it down on the ground. Looks pretty sick installed, guys. Check it out. Boom, boom. First things first, I'm gonna remove all these pop clips to gain access to the bottom clips for the grill. So our next victims are gonna be here, down here, down there, here, and a 10mm right here. Now that you guys got the grill up, you're going to want to swap over this piece from the factory grill right here, a couple Phillips screws, and we're just going to swap it onto our new one. Sick, guys. So now we're going to go ahead and hook up the wiring to the fuse box here so that every time you put the key to the on position, our lights are going to be on. Okay, check it out. So we got our wiring routed, zip tied nice and clean under the headlight, through the factory grommet, which we notched out so that the wire slips right through. You can use a little bit of glass cleaner if you guys want to help that wire slip through. And now we'll move to the inside of the vehicle. Under the truck, there's a multitude of empty fuse slots you can use. As you can see, I got a spade connector on my positive wire there. I'm going to get a nice inline fuse tap with a 10mm fuse, or 10 amp fuse on it. The negative right here, you can just use the bolt that actually secures the fuse box to the vehicle. Make sure you zip tie up your wires nicely. That's it, that's it. Video on this sweet little 4runner. This was a fun little project. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you guys like my content and you want to watch some more. Drop a comment below, good or bad. I'd love to hear from you guys. What else would you like to see on a truck like this? What didn't you like? Have a great day, guys. Keep your sticks on the ice.